Facebook. Are you guys playing tricks on me, or am I just not knowing what I'm doing, right? Um, I just did a little segment. I guess I was on my Sgt Dorsey Speaks page because now I'm seeing people commenting that they can't wait for my broadcast. And I'm like, I just did it. What the heck? Hey, Judy. Hey, Robert. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Sgt Dorsey Speaks. Wow. Okay, so now I see I've really got to figure this out and work out the kinks. Okay, so you guys are with me now. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to be asking you as you are here, if you have questions. I'm going to try to pay attention to the comments section, and I'll address your, hey, Henry, I'll address, hi, Judy. I'll address your questions or whatever it is that, hey, Robert Thomas, Marvin Pollock, what's up? Marvin Payne, hello. I'll address any questions that you might have with regards to anything that I'm talking about, as well as anything that I'm talking about. If you have a question, let me know. When you come on, I'm asking if you could just do, you don't have to say hello, you don't have to tell me that you're here, but I would like you to do a hashtag SDS Sgt Dorsey Speaks. As you come on, hashtag SDS Sgt Dorsey Speaks. And I will also, I'll also may ask a question that I'd really like to have an answer to. So this is going to be part 2. We'll do it again. I'm going to talk not only about police stuff, but I want to talk a little bit about some political stuff that's going on in the news right now, more specifically Brett Kavanaugh. And the reason that this is such a big deal is because, you know, voting has consequences, or more importantly, hey, Deb, what's up, Sister Kitty? More importantly, not voting has consequences. And we see that manifesting itself right now with the Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, and the fact that Republicans are in control and they're running stuff, and folks need to vote for these midterms so we can flip the House and the Senate. Hey, Dimitri. So that we can flip the House and the Senate and get you know, some substantive changes made over there on Pennsylvania Avenue. Because if we're able to successfully flip and Dems take control, then there will be some ranking Democrats in positions of authority that can really get some stuff done. Adam Schiff would become the chairman for the House Intelligence Committee, and Maxine Waters. And what a magnificent show that would be if she becomes the chairman or the chairwoman of the Finance Services Committee, because then she can get all in Trump's financial situation. Hey, Carrie, I appreciate you. So pay attention to these elections. These midterm elections are so important. You know, there was a meeting held over the weekend here in Los Angeles because we have a sheriff who's up for re-election. LA County Sheriff Jim McDonald is up for re-election, and there was a big meeting held at Ward AME Church over the weekend, and a lot of people were commenting that they didn't even know that the sheriff was up for re-election, let alone that there was going to be some kind of community meeting. So it's real important to pay attention, be engaged, and attend these meetings and let your voices be heard. Now, Jim McDonald didn't show up, but you know, nonetheless, the meeting was held and people did know about it. I don't know how widely attended it was, because I don't live in LA County, so I didn't really have an interest or desire to be there for that. But again, back to the Brett Kavanaugh thing, gentlemen, if you have a mother, and I'm assuming that you all do, what is going on and what is being talked about right now with this nominee is important. And I would venture to think that no matter how long ago this thing may have happened to your mother, your sister, your aunt, you would want to have it addressed, right? And there should be a thorough and proper investigation of the charges that are being alleged against him. And it's for a couple of reasons. It's to either prove that it happened or unfound the allegations. And everyone is against having an investigation except for the victim. That in and of itself gives me pause, because the victim is the only one who really wants this investigation. So I don't know what's going to ultimately happen. The Republicans are obviously trying to rush this nomination through. And since thanks, Edward, hashtag Sgt Dorsey Speaks. If you just want to shorten it up and just do SDS, that would be great. That will do a couple of things. Make it easy for me to see who's all here with me. And if this is your first time, you can just type to me and let me know that this is your first time. Hey, Sandra, I see you. Hello, Edward. Hashtag SDS as you join me. But anyway, so back to this Kavanaugh thing, the fact that they're trying so hard to prevent, hey, Barry, listen, should the local police handle, not the FBI? The FBI investigates the background for nominees, and so they've already done a preliminary background check. And this was true when the whole Anita Hill thing happened back in 1991. The FBI was the one that conducted the investigation. So they're the appropriate entity for that. Senators are not investigators. They don't know what to ask and what to do. And the whole purpose of an FBI investigation, Barry, would be so that then the Senate would have a basis from which to ask questions when they do sit down with this either open or closed session that they're going to have with the victim. And so that's why the FBI is the appropriate authority for that. Hey, Robert Lewis, hello. But anyway, so, there's some things that were said by this Kavanaugh guy back in the day. And, you should be careful about what you say because, right, didn't our parents teach us what goes on in the dark always comes out in the light? He talked about at his high school, what happens here should stay here. His buddy who was alleged to be in the room when this thing went down said, women should be hit regularly like a gong. Who says that? And if that was your mindset then, I get that people grow and mature and change, but it's just very disconcerting to me that they come from a place where brutalizing women and being ultra aggressive with women is okay, tolerated, and in some places celebrated. So, okay, Barry, what are you saying? Clarence Thomas was a federal employee at the time of the offense. He was okay. All right, Barry. We can have this conversation, you and me. We'll I am about this later, okay? Because you know what I always say whenever I say something, your agreement's not required, right? I'm just telling you what I think. And if you want to tell folks what you think, then you should probably go live at 5 on your page, right? But anyway, I appreciate you, Barry. I'm not taking it personal, and so I hope you don't either. But oh wow, we have a special guest, Gregory Grant. What about if he's light on his feet? I don't know what you're asking me, sir. But hello and thank you. I appreciate you joining me. And while you're here, Mr. Grant, slide over to Spotify and subscribe to my podcast so you can hear what I have to say over there as well. Ralph Berry, this is my first time and I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I'm not the only one that speaks like this. I get a lot of people asking me, why don't more officers speak out? And there are plenty that do. That's okay, Barry, you're fine, we're good. There are a lot of people that do speak out. You know, we're just spread out. I belong to a group of officers who speak the way that I am, and we are all over the place. And I think really there's probably, and you'd understand, there's a concerted effort to keep us quiet, right? I feel like that here in LA. I feel like I only get so much, I'm only allowed to do and say so much. I'm appreciative of the time that I get to go on CNN and speak because I get to talk to a whole different audience, a much broader audience when I go in. But here locally, nobody's trying to hear what I have to say. Certainly not my former police chief, Charlie Beck, and not this current police chief, Michael Moore. I think that, you know, when you speak like I do, they view you as adversarial. And so you're kind of the enemy. So I'm kind of persona non grata. But I appreciate my LAPD family who are here with me today and listening to what I have to say, because I know that, you know, if you look like me, and a lot of you do, you understand what I'm saying because we've all been through it. It's like riding a motorcycle. It's not a matter of if you're going to go down, it's a matter of when you're going to go down. And so if you're a Black person on a police department, big or small, it's just a matter of time before they tap you on the shoulder and remind you. Some of us get that lesson early on. I certainly did early in my career. So I was clear. And I was just there to collect a paycheck. I was never personally invested. I did not bleed blue. And so that's why it was never a problem for me to be true to who I am and tell the truth about what was going on. Hey, Ralph, no, I'm not affiliated with NOBLE. NOBLE stands for the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement, or it's either Law Enforcement Executives. I'm not sure, because I know here we have a local chapter called ABLE, which is basically only available to people who are lieutenants and above. I'm not sure if Noble allows members who are of all ranks. I'm not really sure how that works. And I never really had an interest in being affiliated with police organizations, primarily because they don't do anything. We had a Black Police Officers Association here, Oscar Joe Bryant Association, OJB, and they really never took a stand for the most part. I mean, there was a time when we had some rebels that were running it, and for my LAPD family, you know who I'm talking about, who were really trying to do something and make some noise, but for the most part, it was go along to get along. And that's the problem with Black people who ascend to those high levels on police departments, because you don't get to breathe that special air. If you talk like I do, they make sure that you don't. Police departments don't promote people who don't speak companies speak. So being affiliated with police organizations was not ever really anything that I was interested in. I don't always play well with the other children anyway, so I tend to stay to myself. Thanks, Fabian. I appreciate you. Scotty, good evening. Hi, how are you? When you come on, just let me know. Oh, hey, Cheryl. Steve, hey, I appreciate you joining me. When you come on, SDS, hashtag SDS, so that I know that you're here. If this is your first time, say hello. If you've been with me in the past couple of weeks, I appreciate you coming back. I'm going to do this every Wednesday. I'm calling it live at 5. So every Wednesday, live at 5, I'll come on and I'll talk a little bit. I'm not gonna stay a long time because I appreciate everybody's time. And I know folks have things to do, and I know that we're dealing with different time zones. So I will never probably be more than 20, 30 minutes talking. I really want to do this from Sgt Dorsey Speaks Facebook page as soon as I figure out how to do it and have it simulcast on both places. But for now, I guess I just have to stay here so that you guys can find me. But live at 5 every Wednesday, and then my podcast, for those of you who may not know, please subscribe to my podcast, which is available on Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, the wireless speaker system, Alexa and Sonos. You subscribe to me there, and that would be great. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, my podcast comes out. Scotty, you want to know what do I think about immunity clauses? Not really sure what you're referring there. Okay, Christina, I see you now. Yeah, I had to come over here, girl, and do it again because I dropped the ball or fumbled or something. I'm not a big sports person, but some kind of way I think I fumbled on the first one. So we're here now. But also during the week, if something comes up and you wanna chit chat about it, or you want me to address a question, reach out to me. On Facebook. You can get in my inbox. I'm good with that too. You can go to my website, which is www.sgtcheryldorsey.com. A lot of the information is being shared across all my platforms. It's on Twitter, it's on Instagram. My website has an amazing wealth of information. My podcast can also be listened to now on my website under the media tab. You can get my podcast information in a lot of different places. One of the things that I talked about a little bit earlier, and I'll just repeat it again for the sake of those who weren't here with me, is the difference between this search warrant and this arrest warrant issued by Dallas PD and maybe the Texas sheriffs. Dallas PD did the arrest warrant, so I'm bothered by that, because that means that's under the supervision, if you will, of Chief Renee Hall, a Black woman. And there's some difference in terms of the language that was used in the arrest warrant or the search warrant. And one of the things that was troublesome for me is that when Amber Geiger shot Mr. John, she called 911 from his apartment. And it says in the arrest warrant that she had to walk outside to look at the number on the building outside to see where she was. And so my thing is, if you just came home, don't you know where you live? You got to walk outside to give them the address or the unit number. That didn't make sense to me. And so there's competing and contradictory stories. If you take the time to Google it, and I'm not going to go into all of that, but if you take the time to Google it and go and look at the wording, pay attention to the words in the arrest warrant, which came first, and the search warrant, which came second. In the arrest warrant, it talked about Amber using a unique key. It says that she inserted a unique key, and then the door opened up. But we know the door didn't open up because, again, there's video that shows these doors have something called a sure slam. So when you open it, it just closed by itself. So there's no way that the door could have been left ajar. But remember, I told you last week on that inventory list, they talked about two keys, RFID, two RFID keys that were found on the inventory, or that was listed on the inventory of items recovered from Mr. Jean's apartment. So is that unique key? Is that master key that I heard something mentioned, and I've only heard it once, and you probably won't hear it again either, but there was talk of a master key that would give her access as an on-site security guard, or on-site security, because she lived there and may have been given some discount on her rent or something if she was agreed to be called all hours of the day or night if there was a 415, and for my non-police friends, that means a disturbance. So she had this master key. Is that the unique key that she used? I want to know what that means. I'm hoping somebody connected to the family, Dominique Alexander, if you're watching my live stuff, you need to ask these questions, because I know that you're there on the ground and you're doing a mighty work with regards to this. Ask about this RFID and the possibility of a master key existing. Not really sure what that means. And then in the search warrant, it says that, I guess there was the contradiction between search warrant, arrest warrant was that the shadow, the dark figure, was across the room when she fired 2 shots, striking him with one of them. Fired 2 shots across the room is on one version. Another version is she was confronted, which, you know, in police lingo sounds like I need to do something to defend myself. But she was confronted at the door, which infers that this person was within close proximity physically to her, and that's why she fired 2 rounds. So these are all things that, you know, that should be asked and answered. Now, I don't know if it really will, because we're waiting to see if this thing is going to go to a grand jury and whether or not they're going to indict, and then whether or not, if they indict, if they can get a jury of her peers to convict her. And there's a Texas councilman who is asking the question as well, why hasn't she been arrested? And I mean, why hasn't she been fired? He says that should be a very easy decision to make in terms of firing her. And I know that there are all kinds of examples out there that you can Google and see on police departments that speak to, sometimes officers are fired, sometimes they're not. There's no uniformity. It's not really standard. But there's questions being asked about why is she still even employed? And did you know that she moved out last week? So they let her break her lease. She was able to just move out in the middle of the month, in the middle of the week, in the middle of the night. An ordinary person would not be able to do that. You know, there are 2 kinds of procedures, you know, within a police department, within our justice system. There's one for folks with money, one for folks with no money. When you're a police officer, blacks get treated one way, whites get treated another way. I talk about what I call a 2-tier system of discipline, if you will, how police departments deal with minority officers versus how they deal with white officers. And I talk about it in my book, for those of you that don't know, Black and Blue, Creation of a Social Advocate. You might want to get it and check it out. It's available on Amazon. And I talk a lot about my LAPD experiences, what I went through looking like I do on the LAPD, a male-dominated, white, at that time, police department. But I also talk about, you know, the things that I'm talking with you about here now, what makes sense to me from my police officer perspective, what doesn't make sense to me, how I feel about what's going on nationally. As a mother of 4 Black men, I have 4 sons, I have 4 grandsons. So I am uniquely interested, keenly interested in what's going on and making things better. And so while I talk about these things in my book, I also talk about what I think would keep us safe day to day, what we need to know and what we need to do and what we need to say to our families when we have that talk. Because young people, you know, they know their rights. And so they know what they can and can't do and what the police can and can't do. But, you know, that can get you hurt. That can get you killed. And we've seen examples of that when you fall prey to what I call, you know, contempt of cop, which is as a police officer, if you piss me off, then there's a price to pay. Hey, Washington, Emma Washington, I'm not sure which way that should go. Hey, D. Arlene, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining me. There's a price to pay if you piss a police officer off. And, you know, we have all kind of things that we could do to you. And I'm just telling you, you know, what's real. I'm telling you what you already know. I could write you a ticket. I can arrest you on a Friday and put you in jail knowing you can't bail out like Sandra Bland, and you're going to spend all weekend in jail, right? And if you're lucky, you'll survive. Sandra Bland didn't, because I don't believe for a minute she hung herself. She was murdered. I believe that to be true. Or we can kill you at the scene like they did Eric Garner because he wouldn't turn around, he wouldn't comply, or like they did with Sam DuBose because he drove off, or like they did a couple of weeks ago to O'Shea Terry because the officer was trying to have a conversation with him about something and Mr. Terry drove off and the officer shot and killed him 5 times. So I get that you have rights and you know them, but listen, do you really want to make your family the next millionaire in your city because you know your rights? I think not. So those are the kinds of things that I talk about in my book, Black and Blue, the creation of a social advocate, things that will keep you safe, things that you should do if you feel like you're receiving service that you don't appreciate. There's a process. And while, you know, I say comply and complain, that's my speaking tour, comply and complain, understand, and I know this, that, you know, when you make a complaint, you may not be the beneficiary of it. They may not fix that thing right there, but you still need to create a pattern and you need to create a record. And so those are the kinds of things that I talk about in my book. Hey, Kay Edward, I appreciate you. Those are the kinds of things that I talk about in my book. Those are the kinds of things that I want to talk about, you know, weekly here when I come on, you know, whatever may be going on in the news, maybe something that I missed and you want to ask me a question about it. Even though it's Sgt Dorsey Speaks, you can also ask Sgt Dorsey and I'll tell you what I think about a particular issue. And it's okay if we don't agree. I just want to give you my best advice based on my training and experience, having spent 20 years on a major metropolitan police department, so that then going forward, you can make an informed decision. Anthony, if you are interested in getting a link to my book, you could go to my website, www.sgtsheryldorsey.com. There is a link on my website where you can purchase through me. I will send you an autographed copy, or you can just go to Amazon and you can purchase my book through Amazon. You will not get an autographed copy because Amazon will be the one that will send it to you. So you have 2 ways of getting my book. My website, sgtsheryldorsey.com, or through Amazon. Either way will get you a copy of it. So we've been at this now for about 23 minutes and I appreciate and respect your time. Hey, Eric, thanks for joining me. You're a little late, bud, but we'll do this again on next Wednesday, unless something happens that, you know, I think is like my version of breaking news and I need to share something with you. Then I'll come back and I'll just tell you real quick, hey, this is what's going on. You need to know, pay attention. But the one thing that I want you to take with you as we leave today, let your vote be your protest. If you are bothered by what's going on in your community and you are not happy with the representation that you have, I get that marching is important, you know, let your vote be your protest. Midterms are coming up. They'll be here before you know it. If you haven't already looked into voting by mail, that might be something you want to do so that you don't get caught up in long lines, if that's an issue in your town. But you need to definitely be engaged, get involved, because us coming here and talking about it and fussing about it is not enough. You know, it's good. And I tell people time, you know, I threw somebody off my page the other day because I was like, get off my page fussing. You know, I appreciate that you're bothered by a thing, but it doesn't matter to be bothered by it if you're not going to do anything about it. And so when you have an opportunity to go to a community meeting to confront and address a police chief or a sheriff, you should absolutely do that. But you're going to have an opportunity in less than, I think, 50 days, less than 50 days. You're going to have an opportunity to make a real change. Governor in Florida, Andrew Gillum, Tish James, State Attorney General in New York. There are two other blacks that are running for gubernatorial offices. Beto O'Rourke in Texas. He needs your help. He's trying to do the right thing. And right now I'm hearing different things about 1 minute he's up, 1 minute it's very close, too close to call with Ted Cruz. But Texas has an opportunity to do something really earth-shattering with your vote. So let your vote be your protest. Look for me next Wednesday, live at 5. Thank you so much for coming by. And I'll tell you here, like I do on my podcast, be good and be safe.